Etzel, who has one of the more interesting careers that I've had the privilege of learning about. He is from Florida, from the Miami area, and even in high school was already starting to do some radio broadcasting. Is that right? So started early, working in his job. Then after graduating, went to DeLand, went to Stetson in DeLand, and then after graduating, went to work for Days Inn and did real estate acquisition all over Florida. Got moved up to Atlanta for that company to become their vice president of development. And then also while in Atlanta, owned a couple Ben & Jerry's franchises and was on the staff of Habitat for Humanity. If you're not familiar with that organization, they help with housing for low-income individuals. In 1995, came back to Florida, moved to Naples, and became CEO of Conditioned Air, where he is now. Now listen to the difference in these numbers. Conditioned Air in 1995 had revenues of $2.7 million, and 20 years later had grown to $45 million. So tremendous accomplishment, a tremendous amount of growth in that period of time. They have about 350 full-time employees in this region. 2010, they received the National Contractor of the Year Award from the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. In 2011, the reason he's here today is they were awarded the Uncommon Friends Foundation Business Ethics Award. So Theo's a part of Vistage, which is an international association of CEOs who get together to focus on constant improvement of their business practices and personal development. He's past chairman of the board for Grace Place for Children and Families in Naples, which is a faith-based charity committed to helping underprivileged and at-risk children attain higher learning and life skills through mentoring relationships. And he's chairman of the board of Encore Bank, a community bank that's headquartered in this region. And in 2011, he was inducted into the Junior Achievement Hall of Fame in Collier County and named a man of distinction in 2013 by the Collier County Champions for Learning. He's also published a book this year focusing on the practical, philosophical, and principled leadership concepts for business and life. It's called Invest Your Heartbeats Wisely. So there's a lot of good integrity and business ethics content in that book as well. He's been married to his wife Kim since 1980. They have two grown children, Chad and Kristen, who are both launched and successfully pursuing their own careers. And the way that Mr. Etzel has asked that we do this presentation today is kind of a question and answer format. And Crystal is the point of contact for the project that's working with his organization. So I've kind of invited her, and I'll be her backup for asking additional questions. But did you want to start and just talk about the book just briefly and summarize?
I will. I'll be happy to do that. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for being here. No, thank you for being here. And I say that thank you for being here because some of you may think you have to be here, but you always have choices. College as to what class to show up to. So I appreciate you being here. I did write a book, and the reason I wrote the book is because I enjoy writing. I've always enjoyed writing, and I've written a number of magazine articles in business and on different topics, and so I just wanted to sort of collect a lot of those ideas and expound on those, and put it into how the leadership and what my vision was at Conditioned Air and for making it long-term. Right? There's so much emphasis today on fast growth and startup and see how it can rocket shot up. But long-lasting things take cultivation. And part of that cultivation is the experience with the people that are paying the bills. And that's not the company. The company is the recipient money that people in the community spend with that company. And people vote with their dollars. And so if we're not doing the right thing for people, then they stop voting for us and we become irrelevant. And so the book is really a summary of different business concepts, practical applications, things we actually do with conditioned air and throughout my experience in my working career. And I really wanted to just put it and memorialize it, get it on paper for others. And it's an easy read, it's not a long book, and it's not written at a super sophisticated level with a lot of formulas in it. It's practical application of how to treat people and different ideas of how you take the philosophy that you want in your business and actually put it into process. Because saying one thing and doing another is very hypocritical, very inconsistent. And that's, the people see what you do much more than they hear what you say. And so you have to match those. And so these are things that I put down just to have folks understand how you take a concept and then put it into some practice. And so that was my motivation for doing that and everything. So far it's done pretty well, and it keeps getting bigger, a little bigger circle every now and then. I haven't done a lot to be out there promoting it. So, but it was a fun exercise. I enjoy writing. That came from my high school experience. We had to do creative writing all throughout junior high and high school. And I don't know if has anybody ever diagrammed a sentence? Right, I didn't think so. Diagramming a sentence is all about grammar, proper grammar and usage of the English language. And so I got that drilled into me. And so I became sort of focused on how to write and how to write good business letters, different things, and I just enjoy it. I like creative writing. I like to write poetry, actually, just as my creative side. I play the stereo, and that's about my musical talent. And I can draw stick figures. That's my artistic talent. But I can cook, and I can write. Those are my two talents. So I can provide myself dinner and do that pretty well. My wife is very happy about that, actually. And I like to write, so I'm not afraid to do that. So this was just a fun exercise. It took a couple of years. So again, it wasn't anything. It was just an overnight throw it on paper and have it done. So, and I hired experts to help me with that, right? Because I'm not a publisher. And I'm not a commercial publisher. So I can write things, but I need to write it in a format that will actually sell or be accepted in the reader's space, right? What is expected. And so I go out and I hire the right people to help me do that. So I'm not afraid to go out and get the right help. And I think that's something that everybody needs to really think about, is if you're not really skilled at something, find somebody who is to assist you. And learn from that experience. So that's what about me. I enjoy talking to people. I have a good time when I go talk to folks, and I really believe in the mentor situation. We're talking about Grace Place. Mentoring kids in their homework, and a lot of times English is not the first language in the home of those children. And so to help them with homework and to help them have access to computers and things like that after school, that's a huge boost for them in their school, elementary school and junior high. With that,
we have Crystal start grilling you. You all can add questions too.
Absolutely, it's conversational.
Not just on her.
No, this is like,
She's gonna have some
dialogue.
questions to get it going.
Yeah, and dialogue. Ask a question if you don't understand or you want another example or anything else. Feel free.
So in 2011, you won the Uncommon Friends Award with Conditioned Air. How did you first get your start in realizing you wanted to be more of an ethical person as opposed to just getting fast growth in making?
Okay, no, that's a good question, because I think a lot of that has to do with my upbringing and just the lessons I learned from my parents and how I was raised. I was raised to do the right thing. And it was, truthfully, it was just put in me, and something that I watched by example, right? I watched my parents make tough choices and do the right thing. And actually, it was interesting because my first job, my first career path out of school was at Days Ends, right, in the real estate area, buying land and things. And the gentleman that I worked for, how should I summarize this? Had what I considered to be two sets of standards. And so I watched that, and I was 22 years old, and I was trying to justify this in my mind that this is just business. Because I hear that a lot. Oh, it's just business. It's not personal, it's just business. It's how it is. And I could never come to that justification. It never sat well with me, because I felt some of the decisions that we were making as a philosophical decision, as a direction, were wrong. And so I did not want to, when I was in a position of influence to people, I did not want to be that person. I did not want to represent myself or the company in that light. So it didn't sit well with me. And so from a young age forward, I just committed to doing that. And I really think, in all honesty, the ethics that I believe are correct to do the right thing for people, and always looking at the sort of servant attitude towards others, that's an internal thing. If you don't believe it or you don't have it, the class really won't matter. Because then it's sort of anything goes. So you really have to adopt it, and you have to want to behave that way. You have to want to act that way and be seen that way. And so for me, my reputation matters, and the way I lead matters. And so I wanted to surround myself with people that also believed that doing the right thing was worth it. And sometimes that costs money, sometimes it costs friends, relationship, if someone's not doing the right thing. There are tough choices that have to be made sometimes. However, I get to sleep at night and not question that I made some unethical, problematic decision.
And how do you implement that in conditioned air? Because I just felt like startup companies usually would lose those ethical decisions, but you've grown to $45 million and your staff has increased a lot, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So how do you keep all your employees with this ethical mindset like you have?
So, like I said, one of the things, reputation matters. Right? So reputation of not only an individual, but reputation of a company is like a shadow. It will never leave you. And a lot of times, it's the sun is at your back and the shadow's in front of you, your reputation precedes you. So currently, then I'll jump back. Currently, we've been doing business the way we've been doing business for a long, long time. And so our reputation has grown to be one that we are an ethical, do the right thing, no high pressure for our people or for the customer kind of company. And so that reputation tends to attract employees that want to be on that kind of team. Right? It's like your reputation will attract people that want to be around you, your behaviors. Now, let's back up. In our industry, Our industry is fraught with companies that don't do the right thing. Because consumers don't know what's wrong with their air conditioner. And in many cases, it would be like driving your car into a mechanic. And if somebody points to something and says, that's really bad, you should replace that. You know, I wouldn't let my mom drive if that car was in that shape. You're apt to buy that repair. In our industry, it's very common for technicians who work in the field, work out on the systems. It's very common for them to get paid as a percentage of the repair bill that you pay. So let's think about that. If the real problem is a really small problem, and it's relatively inexpensive to fix, and I'm the technician that's getting a percentage of that ticket, what is my incentive to make that ticket as small as possible? About is zero, right? So my goal at that time is I've got to find something else. I have to sell you something else. I have to upsell you something. Or I have to lie, quite frankly. Because a lot of people in a lot of places have quotas on sales. Right? So they have a quota. Everybody know what a quota is? A quota, right? So you have to produce this much, have to sell this much, hit some number. Right? So a lot of people are under pressure to perform and to do that. And so we don't do that. We pay by the technician's experience, professionalism, schooling, technical ability, personality. I'll get to that in a minute. And then we don't have any quotas. So we don't force them to sell. We want them to do the right thing for the customer. And we actually reward people if they get a compliment. So the way I describe that is we're going to state how we're going to conduct ourselves. And we have that in several ways, right? We have core values, we have a mission statement, we have it written out in our handbook. People sign off on the handbook, they understand. We hold these key. These are key to us. Very important. If you violate these, you may be dismissed. Please don't do that. And it's super important that we enforce that. That's the sort of legalistic side. The way I say it is, here's what we say, and to the other companies, the carrot is over here. So we're fair and honest in how we do business. That's a nice statement. Anybody can make that statement. But if the carrot is over here, the way they get rewarded, it's not in line, the person has to go towards the carrot. They've got to make a car payment, they have to keep the roof over their head. They're going to be pulled in that direction. So it's very important for us, whenever we look at any kind of policy or any kind of procedure, we want to make sure there are no unintended consequences. So always, if our mission is this, is the incentive in line with the mission? And that's what we have to worry about. So when, as leaders, we look at that as any kind of program that we have to be able to do that. So it's very important to us that those are in alignment, right? And it keeps people grounded on that. People that don't adhere to that do not stay. So as good as we are, we don't always make the best hires. We try. We try to weed through, we try to interview properly, we try to test behaviors, look at backgrounds. Right? So we look at background, we do background checks, which companies do these days. We do behavioral tests, see, make sure that your behaviors, what you like to do, fit with the description of the job. If you're not a people person, you probably don't need to be out dealing with people all day. And that's probably not going to be a great fit. But beyond that, we also look at reputation, we look at drug usage, we look at drug tests, We're going to have a clean staff, we're going to have a good staff, but then they have to believe that our method is better than any other method and want to adhere to that and uphold that. And so if you take an incentive away, right, if you take the incentive away for them to have to sell, then they probably won't, which is what we want. We want them to do the honest, full thing, but not overly aggressive. Who here has read current events about Wells Fargo? Anybody know what happened? Right, so lots of pressure, lots of incentive, lots of quotas, and all of a sudden accounts were formed, products were sold, sometimes with people's knowledge, but a lot of times now we find out without people's knowledge. Right? So that was an overly aggressive condition or process or goal that was implemented at the highest level, right? And it resulted in increased sales, but at a huge cost. One, it's dishonest. That's number one, it's just not honest. You can't go create an account for you when you didn't even sign up for it, now charge you fees for it. And that's, who wants that, right? That's not right. So think about, from a corporate standpoint, the company now has ads on TV stating that they're going to undo what they just did, refund all the fees. They paid a large fine. Right? The stock took a big ding. So now if I'm a shareholder, I have now lost a lot of equity in the company, but lost a lot of market value in that because of that decision, or those series of decisions. And here's where I disagree. The person that was at the highest level that knew about this, that was in charge of it, is no longer there. But he's no longer there with a paycheck of about $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that make a lot of sense? Not to me. And that's where I think, big business gets a lot of bad reputation when someone that's not in that, or someone that's just, we're all working hard for a living, I'm looking at it and I go, but that guy did the wrong thing, yet he gets a big reward. Because that's the way it's seen. That's what it feels like. I don't think you should. If you do the wrong thing, don't get a reward for it. So I would disagree with that methodology. I don't know all the facts, but I would disagree with that from the vision of what it is. So you always have to have the incentive in line with whatever the most important things that you hold for the company or the values that you want to espouse. You have to hold those in line. And actions speak louder than words. And as a leader, everybody watches me. And or any of the management staff there. So leaders are always on stage. Whether you want to be or not, leaders are always on stage. Question?
Like the type of business that you are, how much time and resources do you spend like making sure that your technicians are like acting in a responsible and ethical way, like you were just talking about, as compared to like focusing on the corporate side and making sure that you're doing with your earnings, like what would be considered ethical, like
Right. No, that's a great question. It does take time, and it does take resources, it does take money to make sure that we're doing the right thing by our customers. We do that in several ways. Number one way is we try to survey people that we go and deal with. So we ask for people's feedback, and we make it pretty easy for someone to either jot a postcard down that's prepaid and they can throw it in the mail, or they can go online and do that And we receive a lot of those back. A lot of those back. So we get to monitor people, and we see that. That speaks to company culture. And company culture is something I think is really, really important, because the culture is set. Well, let's put it this way. Organizations, any organization, I don't care what organization it is, it can be a fraternity, it can be the school, it can be anything. But in corporate side, company culture exists. It can exist because I impose a culture that I want in the company, or I can not do that, and I can create a vacuum, basically, and I will let the company culture just fill in from the people around it. I believe leaders' responsibility is to impose a company culture and maintain that company culture and hold it up high all the time so people know it, hear it, see it. My title is CEO. I'm really CBR. It's Chief Broken Record. Okay? That's me, Chief Broken Record, because I'm going to talk about this all the time. It's so important. So once you get the company culture really ingrained in the company, that everybody knows it's important. How do they know it's important? Because you have to make some tough decisions sometimes. If somebody breaks a significant rule in the company, they steal from us. It's happened. Right? It's happened. They steal from us. Easy to let that person go. Quite frankly. Can't be there if you steal from us. Right? The harder decisions are when they break something that someone might say, well, that's kind of nebulous as an ethical value. It's not to us. So our core values, integrity, respect, safety, integrity, respect, safety, very strong blank. Exceed expectations, and purposeful effort. Exceed expectations, purposeful effort. Purposeful effort speaks to be on task, be focused, and get the job done. Safety, let's think about safety. To us, that's a biggie, right? So, case in point, we had a great salesperson, and that is what his job was. Someone says, hey, I want an air conditioner, that you go out and survey the house, you have to figure out what will fit, what will work, what the customer wants, show them the different choices and prices of what a system is. Very good at what he did, great person, good personality, made a significant safety screw up. Right, so, have to wear a seatbelt when you drive. Wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Can't text when you drive. Texting. Accident. Now, all eyes are on me. What do you do to one of the most significant rainmakers? Anybody hear the term rainmaker, right? It's bringing sales in, right? So, good salesperson, great guy. Significant rainmaker, but he had a safety violation. That's one of our core values. If you break the core value, you can be dismissed. It's a significant break. Tough decision, had to let him go. Which he understood. Didn't like it, but he understood. If I lead by exception, that's a problem. You have to lead by consistency. Right, so all eyes on me, had to make that decision. That's what we had to do. And you know what? People understood it because they respected the fact that whether it was somebody that was not a significant rainmaker or whether it was, the rules applied the same. Because when you start applying the rules differently, that's when people start to lose faith in that culture. And when that culture is driven deep enough into the company and everybody understands it and the significance, now if we have a technician that is not upholding, or any person that is not upholding our values, most of the time now, a peer, P-E-E-R, peer, will bring that to management's attention. It does not require necessarily a supervisor trying to catch them or a customer stating that they felt pressured or things like that. Their own peers will raise their hand and talk about that and bring it to our attention as well. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very often. Right. And so, you know, as like going back to hiring, trying to get hiring the right people. So I'd rather always, every day, hire for character and teach the technical. Because as I said, a great technically proficient person who lies, cheats, and steals is of no value to me. Zero, and actually harmful. So we go the opposite way. Rather have the character, rather have the defined values of what they want and how they behave, rather than their technical skills. When you get both, it's a home run for us. We like that. But we also train inside all the time.
Do you have another example of a time when you made an ethical decision that was hard?
Well, I don't think you can be in business without somebody somewhere. You know, I've had vendors come up to us and offer prizes or rewards or gifts or things like that to throw more business that way, things like that, which we won't do that. Yeah, so, but that's, you know, some companies don't consider that unethical. I'm not here to tell you that it is or isn't. I could make a case for both sides, depending on, especially size of company. It's 3 guys, and you know, okay, so it's their Christmas present. I mean, you know, it's however they want to look at it. But for us, that's not what we want. We don't want to encourage that inside the company. So no, we don't do that.
So there's a perception out there in society anyway that being ethical might limit growth or hurt your bottom line. Would you say that in your case it's worked against you, worked for you? What kind of bottom line